Technology for financial education, services, and interactive tools, InvestView's family of subsidiaries focus on delivering products that serve individuals around the world. InvestView companies are forging a path for individuals to take advantage of financial and technical innovations. For you, for your family, for your future. InvestView. Invest in you.
Hey, welcome back. You know, when the discourse is so horrible out there that people from the red Republican side and the blue Democrat side read the same exact document, and 50% of the country hears one thing, 50% of the country hears the other thing, and many of us in the middle don't hear anything we want to hear because we're wondering why can't we just have a conversation without hating the other side. On Liquid Lunch, we try to let all voices be heard. We bring in the perspectives of Democrats and Republicans every single day, and we mix it up. Today, to a fine panel joins us, Bill Cortese. He's a decorated veteran. He's a Republican strategist, and he's a frequent contributor. Thank you, Billy, for being here.
Good to be here.
And Sam Spokony's been on Liquid Lunch before, representing the Dem side. Guys, I'm going to throw out the topics. You guys mix it up. I'm going to break my rule today and mix up a drink for myself. Duke it out. The only rule is at the end we shake hands, we part friends. So first and foremost, this Democratic debate, they're paring the field down now, it seems. And Sam, at least there was some humor and entertainment when they had 14 or 12 people on the stage. There were things to laugh at. Now it's not even, there's nothing entertaining about it at all. I don't think anyone even watched the darn thing. What's happening with the field here?
Well, maybe least entertaining for Pete Buttigieg, who is kind of, I think he's now taken the ire that was maybe once saved for Joe Biden. Among, here in the city, we've seen some of the far left progressive groups have kind of made him persona non grata. He felt some of that heat at the debate, and I think he's been struggling to manage it a little bit. The Wall Street Pete tag has hit him pretty hard. I think, we saw Amy Klobuchar kind of come to life, which was interesting. But I think the takeaway is a couple things. One, anybody who kind of slept on Joe Biden as kind of continuing as the front runner was probably felt like they were maybe a little bit mistaken after that, because he came away not only unscathed, but looking maybe a little bit even stronger than in recent weeks. The more time Democrats spend at each other's throats and the less time talking about what is a credible argument against President Trump on the economy, it's not good.
To that end, Billy, take a look at this. The infighting has begun, and they've ratcheted up the rhetoric. Let's take a look at Buttigieg and Warren attacking each other, this was quite entertaining, I thought.
Just recently had a fundraiser that was held in a wine cave full of crystals and served $900 a bottle wine. Think about who comes to that. He had promised that every fundraiser he would do would be open door, but this one was closed door. We made the decision many years ago that rich people in smoke-filled rooms would not pick the next president of the United States. Billionaires in wine caves should not pick the next president of the United States.
Mr. Mayor, your response. According to Forbes magazine, I am literally the only person on this stage who's not a millionaire or a billionaire. So this is important. This is the problem with issuing purity tests you cannot yourself pass.
Bill, weigh in from the Republican side. What's happening there?
Have you ever been to a wine cave? I've never been to
a wine cave, but we should do a liquid lunch in a wine cave.
That's not a bad idea.
We're
shooting on scene there. Listen, I don't think Gavin Newsom, who owns a wine cave, I believe, really appreciated that. But listen, it's interesting, and this is something that clearly, Mayor Pete has become, I think, public enemy number one for the far left, and Elizabeth Warren, who's trying to kind of carry that mantle, is clearly, taking a shot at Mayor Pete. He hasn't been able to respond, I think, in a coherent way yet. That was a good back and forth, I think, from him. He has a very interesting story. He has a great background. But he's been pummeled in the last couple of weeks on a number of things. But what's interesting is the hypocrisy, and shouldn't be surprising from someone like Elizabeth Warren, who represents Boston, which there's a lot of money managers up there, a lot of hedge funds, a lot if you went through her FEC, she rolled over from her Senate campaign.
That's what I was going to ask Sam. Sam, this is a little trickery, right? It's a little sleight of hand when she's calling him out. But meantime, she did the same exact thing when she ran for Senate, and now she just transferred all that money over to her presidential campaign and says, I'm not going to do that anymore.
Yeah, and I guess my view of it is, as someone who kind of cares about the future of the party and these issues, I think I see it less as, is she hypocritical or not hypocritical? I see it again as a time management issue in terms of the future of the party and what are we thinking about in 2020, because I think it's good to see from the Joe Biden perspective that he can cruise along and keep going strong, but if that's what some of our top candidates are talking about, and I think are kind of devolving a little bit into the Twitterification of the debate, and again, just to go back to something we talked about last time I was here, is I think we need to be I would like to see a lot of these candidates making strong arguments on the economy. We probably disagree about that issue in terms of President Trump's vulnerability on that issue, but there's a lot to be left unsaid when you're talking about wine caves. I don't really want to hear about wine caves.
But where is the president vulnerable on the economy, in your view?
I mean, I think the reality is that, you were just having a discussion about SALT before. That was, even among Republicans, not a great result of the 2017 tax reform issue. I think that...
But that's not a macroeconomic issue. That's a single tax issue that you're talking about. And the macroeconomy, growth, unemployment, household, all this stuff is up.
Right, which I think
is he vulnerable?
There's a separate debate. If you talk to a lot of economists, I think that you'd see that a lot of that is an outgrowth of the Obama presidency. It's a separate discussion.
Look, listen. I think Joe Biden doesn't want to take any credit for what he said that the middle class was taking hits on, as if he wasn't vice president for 8 years, and then says, the economy's doing better because, it was the Obama-Biden economy, but it's actually not doing that well. Because you have to pick which one. You either own it or you don't own it. And I think it was interesting last night trying to see these candidates kind of splice and say, listen, African-American employment's at all-time lows. Unemployment itself is at all-time lows. Stock prices are at all-time highs. It's hard to sit here and try to hit the president on the economy. Are there other things you could? Yes, but the economy, it just doesn't make sense to me tactically or strategically to try to go after something that's people are feeling good about where the stock market is right now and where the economy is.
But at the same time, I think some of the bread and butter issues for some of these candidates is still income inequality. And I think even if you look at folks in rural communities, and the last time I was here, we were talking about tariffs and some of the impacts on farmers and folks who are growing crops. There's still a lot to be left unsaid when the Trump administration can send out its agricultural heads and folks who should be engaging with those communities, and they're getting booed off the stage, even in the Midwest. So I think that there's still a lot of issues that the president faces there. But to your point, we can disagree about the fundamentals of those issues, but if our candidates on the Democratic side are talking to each other about wine caves, they're not really getting into the nuance of that issue and really going after some of those, particularly suburban voters and even voters in the heartland that they should be targeting with that messaging. It's not enough to kind of fight for the soul of the party from a progressive ideals perspective and then have the rest of the economics discussion be about you take too much from billionaires, you take too much from billionaires. I think it leaves a lot on the table for them.
So go ahead, Billy.
Two winners last night. Joe Biden, Amy Klobuchar. Very clearly, two winners last night.
That was definitely his best debate.
Best debate, yes. And again, it's relative because he's had some really poor performances, but he has had that front-runner staying power that I thought he was not going to have. In all the polls that you see coming out over and over again, he is at the top by a few points, but he has some staying power.
They're probably feeding him CBD or something, but
something.
You calm him down and maybe he thinks a little more before he talks or something. But he definitely had his best performance. You're right, the ball was set low, but. While they're attacking each other over there, Buttigieg and Warren, and they're starting to hack at each other, and Bernie and Biden are a little going back and forth. But out of left field, former press secretary Sarah Sanders came in off the top rope with a tweet mocking Joe Biden. So he's getting a little incoming from Sarah Huckabee Sanders. I have absolutely no idea what Biden is talking about. So Is Sarah, I know she's a voice of the new campaign. She's not, but she's attacking the top and letting them kick each other around on the bottom.
Well, so is this where we get to remind her that, the gentleman that she served as press secretary as a wife that's leading the Be Best campaign to, combat cyberbullying, and, maybe some elements of that administration in terms of how they communicate maybe aren't so in line with that messaging. And I think that, it was nice to see that she apologized for that and then deleted the tweet. But I think this is an example of, the reality of, not just this administration, but a lot of the kind of the Trump wing of the party that's now obviously co-opted control of the entire Republican Party, likes to talk about, morals and Christian values and family ideals and kind of putting your best foot forward. And, to see something like that is just, I think, a pretty clear and transparent reminder that that's, not quite the values that they live up to every day.
I thought Sarah got dealt a tough hand there when she was press secretary. I guess she probably feels
that was
free
not
now.
easy. I think she's
She's probably unleashed now. You
right.
know what I mean?
Right.
And then I guess Bernie and Biden were duking it out and telling him to put his hand down. I mean, to me, it's going to be whittled down to a couple white guys. But basically, even Elizabeth Warren still be on the stage. But I think it's going to be 3 70-year-old white folk.
Right, and I think
all the diversity and income inequality, all sort of stuff, it's right back to the same old.
Right.
I think.
The new guidelines, I think, came out too for the next debate, so I think it's going to could possibly be whittled down even more. You had a very white and stale debate last night. And they brought it up, they talked about it, but you don't see the diversity that they talk about in the party.
Yeah, what happened with that, Sam? The diversity, we got more women, first-time Congress, and we're changing, and it's basically the same old.
I think that a diverse field, and again, I think that the most valuable thing that Democratic candidates can spend their time on is talking about issues that matter to people. I do think that, again, we're seeing it play out right now, is that when we focus too much on identity politics, it also exposes us to attacks from folks who are maybe making those arguments disingenuously, and it can kind of undercut some of the messages that the party wants to send. So I think it's about staying on the message. We want to talk about the policy of the administration, how they're actually impacting people and what needs to change.
Fantastic. Bill Cortese, Sam Spokony, I want to thank you guys for coming in on a Friday and mixing it up for us. All voices are heard right here on Liquid Lunch when we mix it up every single day. We're going to take a quick break. The show ends at 1:30 today, so we're going to wrap it up very shortly right after this.